I'm Dr. Michael Harrison, and today I want to share something that could make a real difference in your life. Because if you are over 60 and you eat breakfast, and I hope you do, then the next 27 minutes might just change the way you think about your mornings forever. Let me ask you something. When you woke up this morning, did you feel a little stiff? Maybe a little foggy? Perhaps your balance felt just slightly off, or your energy was not quite where you expected it to be, and you probably told yourself the same thing most people tell themselves. You said, it is just age. Well, I spent 40 years treating patients in the hospital, and I can tell you something with absolute confidence. That feeling is not just age, it is your body trying to tell you something. And what you eat in the first hour after waking up has more to do with your stroke risk, your blood pressure, and your long-term independence than almost anything else you do all day. Now, before we dive in, I want to be clear. While I am a physician sharing evidence-based information, this video is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice from your own doctor who knows your specific health history. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health regimen. That said, let us get into it. Today, I am going to walk you through 5 morning strategies, 5 specific things you can do before 9 a.m. that research strongly suggests may help reduce your stroke risk and support your heart and brain for the long haul. We are starting with number 5 and working our way down to number 1, which I saved for last because it might just change everything. And I do mean everything. I have treated thousands of patients with cardiovascular concerns over my career. I have seen what works. I have seen what does not. And I have seen more times than I care to count what happens when people ignore the warning signs their mornings are giving them. So stay with me through all 5. Each one builds on the last, and together they form something remarkably powerful. Now, to understand why these morning strategies matter so much, you first need to understand what is actually happening inside your body between the hours of about 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. Because here is something that most people, even many physicians, do not emphasize enough. The early morning is one of the most physiologically vulnerable windows of the entire day for anyone over 60. Research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association has confirmed what cardiologists have observed for decades. Stroke and heart attack rates peak in the morning hours, and there are very specific reasons for this. During sleep, your body becomes mildly dehydrated, your blood thickens slightly, your blood vessels, which have become less elastic over the decades, are at their stiffest when you first wake up. And on top of all that, your cortisol, which is your body's primary stress hormone, surges in the early morning as part of your natural waking cycle. For a younger person with flexible arteries and robust circulation, this is manageable. For someone over 60, especially someone living with high blood pressure, and the National Institute on Aging reports that nearly 2 out of every 3 adults over 60 do, this morning window becomes a period of genuine vulnerability. Before I explain the science behind each of these 5 strategies, let me share a story that perfectly illustrates what I am talking about. I want to tell you about someone I will call Robert. Now, Robert is like many of the patients I have seen over the years. He was 67, recently retired from 35 years as a school principal, and living with his wife in a quiet neighborhood. Robert came to see me because his wife insisted. She noticed that his left hand would sometimes tremble at breakfast, and that he seemed confused on certain mornings, searching for words that used to come easily. Robert told me something I will never forget. He said, "Doc, I have done everything right my whole life. I exercised. I ate my vegetables. I took my medications. So why do I feel like my body is turning against me?" That fear of losing control, of becoming dependent, of watching yourself slip, I heard it almost every day in my practice. And the truth is, Robert had reason to be concerned. His morning blood pressure readings were consistently elevated, sometimes dangerously so. But here is what surprised both of us. When we looked closely at his morning routine, we found the problem was not what he was doing, it was what he was not doing. Robert was skipping fluids until his coffee was ready. He was eating cold cereal with juice, which spiked his blood sugar within 30 minutes, and he was rushing through his mornings in a state of low-grade stress that his body interpreted as an emergency. Every single morning, Robert was unknowingly setting off a cascade of physiological responses that put his brain and heart at increased risk. Robert's story is important because it illustrates something the research has confirmed again and again. For people over 60, the morning is not just another part of the day. It is a critical window that either protects your cardiovascular system or quietly strains it. And the beautiful thing is, the changes that make the biggest difference are not dramatic. They are gentle, they are simple, and they are available to everyone. So let us get into our 5 strategies, starting with number 5. Number 5. Replace your first drink of the day with something warm and gentle. Now, I know this sounds almost too simple, but stay with me. because the physiology behind this is fascinating. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your blood is at its thickest point of the entire day. Your vessels are stiff. Your system is essentially in a state of mild dehydration. What you drink first sends a powerful signal to your entire cardiovascular system. Here is what the research actually shows. When you consume something warm, not hot, not boiling, but comfortably warm, your blood vessels respond by gently dilating. This is called vasodilation, and it is one of the most protective things that can happen in your circulatory system first thing in the morning. Warm water alone can reduce what is called morning vascular resistance. That is the amount of force your heart has to generate to push blood through stiff vessels. Now here is the part most people miss. Many seniors reach for coffee first thing, and I am not telling you to give up coffee. I still enjoy mine, but coffee as your very first drink on an empty, dehydrated system acts as a stimulant and a mild diuretic at the same time. For some people, this combination can contribute to those elevated morning blood pressure readings that concern physicians like me. Instead, consider starting with a cup of warm water. Plain warm water. If you want to add something, a gentle green tea steeped for just a minute or two provides compounds called catechins that research from Harvard Medical School has associated with improved arterial function. Barley tea, which is common in Japan and naturally caffeine-free, is another excellent option. Even a thin slice of fresh ginger steeped in warm water can help. Ginger has mild anti-inflammatory properties that researchers at the National Institutes of Health have been studying for its potential cardiovascular benefits. The key is softness, in temperature, in flavor, and in intention. You are not trying to jolt your system awake, you are trying to invite it into the day gently, and I understand that changing a morning habit can feel unnecessary, especially if you have been doing the same thing for decades, but I have seen so many patients whose morning blood pressure readings improved measurably just from this one shift. Not because warm water is magic, but because it removes a source of stress from the most vulnerable part of your day. If you are taking blood pressure medication or blood thinners, plain warm water is the safest starting point. No interactions to worry about, no complications, just warmth and hydration telling your nervous system that it is safe to start the day. Now let us move to number 4, which builds directly on what we just covered. Number 4, shift your breakfast from sweet to savory. This is something I see patients get wrong all the time, and I want to be very careful here because I am not trying to create guilt around food choices. Guilt creates stress, and stress damages blood vessels. So let me frame this as information, not judgment. Here is what I have observed in 40 years of practice. Many of my patients over 60 eat breakfasts that they sincerely believe are healthy. Toast with jam, a bowl of cereal with milk, a glass of orange juice, a banana, maybe a muffin from the bakery. And later in the day, these foods might be perfectly fine, but as the very first food your body receives after an overnight fast, they create a problem. These foods are primarily simple carbohydrates. They digest quickly and cause a rapid spike in blood sugar. Your pancreas responds by releasing a surge of insulin. Your blood vessels react to this glucose and insulin spike with what researchers call sympathetic nervous system activation. In plain language, your body interprets this rapid change as a mild emergency. Blood pressure can fluctuate, inflammation markers can increase, and for seniors with already stiff arteries, this repeated daily stress adds up over months and years. Now here is what stopped me in my tracks when I first read this study. Researchers from Japan's National Institute of Health and Nutrition analyzed dietary patterns in over 4,000 adults aged 60 and older. They found that those who regularly ate protein-centered, savory breakfasts had significantly lower glucose variability and less sympathetic nervous system activation than those eating refined carbohydrates. A related analysis from the Japan Public Health Center-based prospective study, which followed more than 6,800 older adults, showed that traditional savory breakfasts were associated with steadier blood pressure readings and lower cardiovascular event rates. So what does a savory breakfast look like? It is simpler than you might think. Eggs are one of the best options. 2 eggs prepared however you like them, scrambled, poached, soft-boiled, provide high-quality protein and amino acids that slow digestion and stabilize blood sugar. If you prefer plant-based options, tofu works beautifully. Even a small portion of fish, which is common in Japanese morning meals, provides protein along with omega-3 fatty acids that research from the American Heart Association has consistently associated with cardiovascular protection. This is exactly what happened with a patient I will call Sarah. Sarah was 71 and had been eating oatmeal with brown sugar and a glass of apple juice every morning for 15 years. She considered it her healthy routine, but her morning blood pressure readings were erratic, and she often felt shaky and fatigued by 10 a.m. When we shifted her breakfast to 2 scrambled eggs with a handful of sautéed spinach and a drizzle of olive oil, something remarkable happened. Within 3 weeks, her morning blood pressure readings became noticeably more consistent, her mid-morning energy improved, and that shaky, unsettled feeling she had accepted as normal simply faded. Sarah did not change her medications. She did not start a new exercise program. She changed one meal. I want to pause here and remind you, I am not suggesting you change any medications or treatments without speaking to your prescribing physician. What I am sharing today may inform a conversation with your doctor, but any changes should only be made under their guidance. Number 3 is something that might surprise you. This thing that most people think is helpful in the morning can actually work against you if you are not careful. Number 3, add fermented foods to your morning, even in very small amounts. Now I know what you might be thinking. Fermented foods sound exotic or complicated, but they are not, and the science behind why they matter for stroke prevention is genuinely compelling. Here is what most people do not realize. Your gut and your cardiovascular system are in constant communication. Scientists call this the gut cardiovascular axis, and research over the past decade has revealed that the bacteria in your digestive system directly influence blood pressure regulation, inflammation levels, and even how your blood vessels function. A major review published in the journal Circulation found that gut microbiome composition is significantly associated with cardiovascular risk factors, including hypertension and arterial stiffness. Fermented foods, things like yogurt, miso paste, kimchi, sauerkraut, or a traditional Japanese food called natto, contain beneficial bacteria that support this gut cardiovascular communication. You do not need large amounts. A tablespoon of miso dissolved in warm water makes a simple, savory broth. A small serving of yogurt alongside your eggs adds beneficial cultures without overwhelming your digestion. Even a forkful of sauerkraut on the side of your plate counts. In my experience with thousands of patients, those who incorporated even modest amounts of fermented foods into their regular routine often showed improvements in inflammatory markers over time. This aligns with what researchers at the Stanford School of Medicine found in their 2021 study, where a diet high in fermented foods led to increased microbiome diversity and decreased markers of inflammation. Now, I want to be practical here. If you have never eaten fermented foods, start with something familiar. Plain yogurt is fermented. That is a perfectly good starting point. If you are more adventurous, a cup of miso soup in the morning is one of the most comforting, warming, gut-supporting foods I know of. The key is consistency, not quantity. A little bit every day does more than a large amount once a week. Alright, stay with me here. We are about to get to the really practical stuff, but I want to make sure you caught everything we just covered. So far we have talked about starting your morning with a warm, gentle drink instead of jumping straight to coffee. We have talked about shifting from sweet breakfasts to savory, protein-centered ones. And we have talked about the surprising power of adding even small amounts of fermented foods. Each of these works on its own, but together they create a morning routine that research strongly suggests may significantly support cardiovascular health. Now let us move to number 2, and pay close attention here. Number 2. Include warm, lightly cooked vegetables instead of raw ones in the morning. This is where I see a lot of well-meaning advice go sideways. We have all heard that we should eat more vegetables, and that is absolutely true. But the form in which you eat them, especially first thing in the morning, matters more than most people realize. Raw vegetables require significant digestive effort. They are cold, fibrous, and demand that your body divert blood flow to your digestive system to break them down. For a younger person, this is no problem. But for someone over 60, especially in the morning when your system is still waking up, raw vegetables can create digestive stress that indirectly affects circulation. When digestion is working hard, it competes with your cardiovascular system for blood flow. Lightly cooked vegetables, on the other hand, are pre-softened by heat. They are easier to digest, their nutrients are often more bioavailable, and they arrive warm, which continues the theme of gentleness that your morning routine should embody. Think sautéed spinach, which provides magnesium that supports healthy blood pressure, steamed broccoli, which contains compounds that research suggests may support arterial health, soft-cooked mushrooms, which provide potassium and B vitamins. Even something as simple as zucchini or sweet potato, warmed through, gives your body minerals and nutrients without asking your digestive system to work overtime. This reminds me of one of the most meaningful conversations I have ever had with a patient. I will call him Thomas. Thomas was 74 and had survived a minor stroke 2 years before I met him. He was terrified of having another one. He had completely overhauled his diet based on what he read online, filling his mornings with raw kale smoothies, cold fruit bowls, and green juices. On paper it looked perfect, but Thomas was experiencing significant digestive discomfort every morning. His blood pressure remained unpredictable, and he felt cold and depleted by midday. When I suggested he simply cook his vegetables and eat them warm alongside some protein, he looked at me like I was taking something away from him. But within a month, Thomas told me something that still stays with me. He said, "For the first time since my stroke, my mornings feel calm. Not just my mind, my whole body feels calm. That is the power of working with your biology instead of against it." Okay, we have covered a lot of ground. Let me bring this all together for you, because this next part is where the rubber meets the road. We have talked about warm drinks, savory breakfast, fermented foods, and cooked vegetables. 4 strategies that create a foundation of cardiovascular support in the morning. But everything I have shared so far leads up to this final point. Number 1, eat slowly, seated, and with intentional calm. I saved this for last because in some ways it is the most important of all 5, and it has nothing to do with food itself. It has to do with how you eat. Here is what the medical literature tells us. When you eat in a rushed state, standing at the counter, scrolling through your phone, thinking about your to-do list, your sympathetic nervous system stays activated. That is your fight or flight system, and when it is active during eating, several things happen simultaneously. Your blood pressure remains elevated. Your digestion is impaired because blood flow is diverted away from your gut. Cortisol stays high, which promotes inflammation, and your blood vessels remain constricted rather than relaxed. Research from the American Institute of Stress and multiple studies in psychosomatic medicine have confirmed that the physiological state in which you eat directly influences how your body processes that meal. The same breakfast, the exact same food, produces different cardiovascular responses depending on whether it is eaten in calm or in haste. In Japan, there is a concept that I find beautifully relevant here. Elders are taught that the morning meal is not about fueling up, it is about settling in. The act of sitting down, taking a few slow breaths, and eating at a measured pace tells your nervous system something profound. It says you are safe, there is no emergency. And when your nervous system believes that message, your blood vessels relax, your blood pressure stabilizes, and your entire cardiovascular system operates with less strain. I know that can feel challenging, especially if you live alone, and mornings feel like just another part of the day to get through. But I have seen patients transform their morning blood pressure readings simply by adding 5 minutes of seated intentional eating. Not meditation, not yoga, just sitting down, breathing and eating without rushing. This is the exciting part. Everything I have shared with you today comes down to this. You do not need a perfect diet. You do not need expensive supplements or complicated recipes. You need a morning that works with your body instead of against it. And when you create that morning day after day, the cumulative effect on your cardiovascular health can be genuinely remarkable. Let me walk you through exactly how to put all of this together. Step 1. Start here. Tomorrow morning, before you do anything else, heat a cup of water until it is comfortably warm. Not boiling, just warm. Sit down with it. Take 3 slow breaths. Drink it over 5 minutes. That is it. That is your starting point. If you do nothing else from this video, do that. Give your body that one gentle signal that the day is beginning safely. Step 2. Build on that foundation. Over the next week, begin shifting your breakfast towards savory. You do not have to overhaul everything at once. Maybe on Monday, try 2 scrambled eggs with a handful of spinach instead of your usual cereal. See how you feel by mid-morning. Most of my patients notice a difference within the first few days. Steadier energy, less mid-morning fatigue, and a sense of calm they did not expect. Step 3. Once that feels natural, begin adding small amounts of fermented foods, a tablespoon of miso in warm water, a small serving of yogurt, a forkful of sauerkraut, and begin cooking your morning vegetables instead of eating them raw. Remember, this is not about perfection. It is about consistency. Your body learns what to expect, and when it trusts your morning routine, internal tension drops. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this sounds too simple to make a real difference, and I understand that skepticism, but consider this. The research from the Japan Public Health Center study followed thousands of older adults for years and found measurably better cardiovascular outcomes among those who followed these exact principles, not because any single food was miraculous, but because the pattern of gentle, consistent, savory mornings reduced the cumulative stress on their cardiovascular systems over time. Small choices repeated daily become powerful medicine. The most common obstacle I hear from patients is time. They say they do not have 15 minutes for a sit-down breakfast, and I always respond the same way. You have time for what you prioritize. If protecting your brain, your heart, and your independence matters to you, then 15 minutes in the morning is not a luxury. It is an investment in the life you want to keep living. Another obstacle is loneliness. Many seniors eat alone, and meals can feel joyless. If that resonates with you, I want you to know that your morning meal can become a small act of self-respect. You are worth sitting down for. You are worth cooking for, even if it is just you at the table. Especially if it is just you at the table. Before I let you go, I want to share one more story that I hope will stay with you. I want to tell you about someone I will call Grace. Grace was 79 when her daughter brought her to see me. She had been having episodes of dizziness and confusion in the mornings, and her family was frightened. They were already discussing assisted living. Grace looked at me in that first appointment with an expression I have seen hundreds of times. It was the look of someone who believed her independence was slipping away. We ran tests, we reviewed her medications, and then we looked at her mornings. Grace was drinking cold water from the refrigerator, eating a piece of toast with marmalade, and rushing through it all while watching the morning news, which raised her anxiety. We made gentle changes. Warm water first, eggs with soft vegetables, a small cup of miso soup, and the most important change of all, we asked Grace to turn off the television, sit at her kitchen table, and eat in quiet. 6 weeks later, Grace came back. Her blood pressure had improved. Her dizziness episodes had decreased significantly, and the first thing she said when she sat down was, "I made breakfast for my granddaughter last weekend." She said it was the best meal she ever had. Grace was not just eating differently, she was living differently. She was reclaiming her mornings, her kitchen, and her sense of purpose. That is what this is really about. So let me leave you with 3 things to remember. First, your morning is the most important window for cardiovascular protection after 60. What you drink and eat in that first hour sets the tone for your entire day. Second, the changes that matter most are not dramatic. Warm water, savory protein, cooked vegetables, fermented foods, and a calm pace. Simple, gentle, and profoundly effective when practiced consistently. Third, you deserve mornings that support your body instead of straining it. This is not about restriction, it is not about rules, it is about giving yourself the care you have earned. And remember, this information is meant to educate and empower you, not replace the advice of your personal physician. Take what you have learned today and have a conversation with your doctor about what is right for you. If you found this helpful, if you learned something today that you can use, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. I release new videos every week, specifically designed to help you take control of your health and maintain your independence as you get older. And I promise to always give you the science without the hype. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 morning strategies are you going to try first. I personally read every comment, and I would love to hear from you. And if you are looking for more ways to protect your heart and brain, I have another video coming next week about the connection between sleep quality and stroke risk that I think you are really going to want to see. The research is remarkable, and it ties directly into what we talked about today. Try this for 1 week and see how you feel. Start with just the warm water tomorrow morning. Give your body a chance to respond. I think you will be surprised at what happens. Take care of yourself. I am rooting for you.